is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Been a while since we've been here. Sorry, getting things set. There we go. Okay. It's a little rough going here, but I think we can make this work. Yeah. Chat box is not going to work, so we're going to get rid of that right there. Okay. So what's going on out there, everybody? It's a bit of a hectic day here as we try to get some stuff done. And of course, the life of a parent, nothing's ever just easy. It's got to be a pain in the ass with everything. So, hold on here. There. So, as you can hear from the clicking in the background, we have people here on the show with us tonight. And the clicking would be Johnny, of course.
Yes.
And of course, we also have Miss Ronnie.
Hi to everyone out there.
We have Trek.
Hey there, folks.
And of course, we have the birthday boy himself, the famous Mike Bobbitt.
If your penis is on fire, then run.
I'm doing well there, Danarex. I just had to shove dinner down my face so that I could get onto the show in time here. Other than that, as quiet as this house has been since 11:30 this morning.
Wow.
Yeah, little Miss Bundy has just been that kind of a girl today.
Relish in it.
So, if I look tired, it's because I am. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I am tired. Marushichu, if you are out there, be prepared. This is eventually what you're going to end up looking like, as well as Laura, because your child will be the death of you. No, but all jokes aside, Wendy is a pretty decent kid. I mean, she only cries when she has a wet diaper or when she's hungry. Or when she's fighting sleep, which really isn't that often. She's like her mother. Her mother likes to sleep. So, that's not too bad, I would think. She got her first round of shots here recently, and that's one thing that I want to it's a little rant of mine that I've been talking about since she's gotten her first shots. The needles that are used for this, they're the size of a needle that you would use on me. Why are you using it on my 3-month-old kid?
I agree with you. I mean, it's what they need, and unfortunately, with technology and science, you would think, knowing that these are like little tiny feet and arms and hands and legs, that they would design something for these children, because it's just even heartbreaking as a parent watching it.
It is. I mean, I sit there and watch the needle go in. It's like, dear God, did you hit the bone?
Yep.
The needle is that fucking long. You would think, as Ronnie said, with all the technology that we have today, that they would have something that is for infants. Especially when it's the case of a premature infant like Ronnie, you had to go through.
Yes. Yep. It is. It's we had one at the pediatrician's office. It was one nurse, and that's all she did all day. And it's just, she just go from room to room, and especially Austin being premature, he was so frail, and his skin was so thin, and to even have him just laying there knowing he was going to be getting these shots, and every time this nurse would come in, he knew what was going to happen as he got older. because that's all she did was administer those. And she was the most hated nurse, but she was the sweetest woman, and she tried to be gentle. But you got a squirming baby or a squirming toddler, and it's just there's got to be a better way, especially in inoculating these kids, because after a certain amount of months they have to keep going back to keep getting inoculated. That's what puts the fear into most kids. This, I don't want to go because I know I'm going to get a shot.
Exactly, especially so close together. Like with Wendy, she has to go back in April for her booster shots. It's only 2 months after she was just there.
Yep. And
So it's
she's
just like-
still pretty, yeah, she's still pretty young, but it's something that they associate with the doctors.
Yeah, she's gonna get to that point where she's gonna realize, okay, wait, this person means pain. I don't want to see this person. So it's just like, I mean, and I feel bad for these nurses, because the nurses that are at my daughter's doctor's office are all fucking phenomenal. But unfortunately, they're just going to be associated with pain for her in her little mind at this moment.
Yep.
Yeah, and she's gonna. It's the
What
way
was-
she screamed.
What was nice for me is the pediatrician's office we used for Austin. The doctor was my pediatrician, and he was soon to be ready to retire. And the doctor that Austin ended up with is who he trained. And it was just nice knowing that I could, as Austin got older, kind of explain to him, it's just like, look, I went to this pediatrician, and this is how they run the office, and they're there to make you feel better. But unfortunately, yes, today's a day for a shot. And then, of course, as he got older, the one female, they would ask, okay, this is the type of procedure we're going to do. With him being a boy, do you want to schedule it with the male doctor or the female doctor? They gave us options and stuff like that. But he was constantly, as an infant, going to the pediatrician because of him being a premature baby. And when he reached 3 years of age is when I put him into daycare. And because his immune system had not built up a tolerance, because with him being a preemie, I tried to avoid him being around social settings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He caught everything under the sun. So we were constantly at the pediatricians when he was 3, 4, and 5 years old before he got into a school setting.
Right.
So he got the association with the doctor's office of, yes, getting all these shots. Yes, I go there when I'm not feeling well. But then the other sense was, oh, they give me medications, or they make me feel better, or they comfort me. So it was kind of like a nice, well-rounded, and it was something that I could relate with him because of it being where I went as a kid till
Right.
I was in my teens. So it was nice to have that. But a lot of people don't have that luxury, and it's just, especially with, like you said, with these needles and advanced technology, it's just, your heart goes out to them, because as soon as that needle touches them is when screaming starts.
Exactly. I mean, she looked at these nurses and was smiling at these nurses, and then all of a sudden,
Yep.
pinch and then puncture, and she was screaming her head
Oh.
off. And it's just, I felt so bad, and she had to get 3 of them in one sitting. So, and one of them was a combination shot. So it's just, it was even worse for her in that sense, because it's getting punctured 3 times.
Yep.
One of
Like,
which
yeah.
is very
Push.
close to one where she did the first shot. It's just like, oh god, do you have to do it that close? Can't you go to a different part of the leg to at least break it apart a bit, you know?
Yep. And then, of course, with the inoculations and stuff like they get, every child is different. So you're going to have the soreness and the tenderness. Even adults get it after they get inoculated. They tense up or whatever. And I mean, this is an infant that doesn't know any better.
Exactly. They just know I'm in pain, and
I'm
I
in
don't
pain,
feel
yep.
good, and I just want to cuddle, and I just want to sleep, but I also want to cry.
And then, of course, then you got the runny nose with some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them, you have the soreness. You've got the drainage and stuff like that. Or if they have an adverse reaction, it's just so many combinations of different things that can happen with the inoculations that they get. But they so need them to protect them out there today.
Absolutely. I mean, between that and the fact that And this is another rant I have, being a new parent. You other parents out there that sit there and fucking baby your children that don't fucking need it. You have a very healthy, no problem whatsoever child, and yet you want to sit there and shield them away from all the fucking germs and have everybody use hand sanitizer and do this and you can't do that. Don't breathe on my child. You might have a germ. If you do not sit there and let your kid experience these things outside of your fucking womb, they're going to end up sick all the fucking time. Because you're not giving them the chance to build up their immune system.
Right. And for me, I mean, it was a decision I made, being that he was premature, and I did keep him out of social situations for 3 years. But I learned the hard way, because once he hit daycare, he caught everything under the sun. Everything. And it was, I had just started a new job, and I was on like a probationary period. Because of time I missed, I ended up having a longer probationary period.
Of course.
But they worked with me, but unfortunately, it was my decision. And I mean, if I took him to the grocery store, or if I took him out, I mean, I did everything I could to protect him from everything, besides putting a mask on him. But it was something that the doctor and I discussed, with him being as small as he was.
Right.
But it was also a good year before I even was able to venture out with him, because he was so small and vulnerable. But yeah, once you get around other kids, or even if I would have waited till he was in kindergarten, that could have ended up being where he was held back, because he would be missing so much time. But yeah, there's just so much out there nowadays, and kids pick up everything.
They do.
They touch everything. The kids are bound to get sick. And when you got cold weather, everybody's facing, and people are bundled up, and then everyone from cold to hot, and you're at work, and you're around people that have kids, and their kids are it's just a vicious cycle.
It is, and that's why your situation was different, because of course he was premature, so his system, no matter what, was going to be fucked.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
So with that you had no choice in that matter, really, and again, you had a good reason for it. I'm talking about these. If I had done that with Wendy, I would have been slapping the shit out of myself, because she's perfectly healthy. She has no issues with her immune system. There's no issues with her kidneys. There's no issues with anything else within her. So, for me to sit there and hold her back from somebody that we know, just being close to her or just breathing in her direction, it would do a disservice to her.
Yes.
And her developmental system. Why society, that's the extreme. And that's the kind of parent I'm talking about.
And even nowadays, I mean, daycares and schools, public schools, if you're going to homeschool your child, or you're going to keep your child at home, then by all means you have that right. But as a public school or a daycare setting, you're not even going to be accepted, because they want documentation that your child's been vaccinated for this. And if you're not going to go that route and protect your child, you're also not going to infect these other children, because you don't know what's going on with your child if they're not inoculated.
Exactly. I mean, it's just, and again, it does them a disservice. And not only does it do their immune systems and all of that a disservice, you're doing their sociology a disservice, because of the fact that they're not going to have that interaction with other people, to where they're going to grow up, and every person that they see, they're going to run and hide behind you as their parent.
Right. And in even today's society, I mean, it's just, there's no social interaction with kids. Everything nowadays, you're done through your phone, or you're on the gaming systems.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see kids out and about with other kids unless they're in a school sitting situation or a daycare situation. And I mean, every parent is different with their beliefs on how they want to raise their children. To me, if you're not harming your child, if you don't think you're harming your child's social game or interaction, in a way you kind of are, because you're kind of isolating them to the point where, yeah, as they get older, they're not going to have those verbal skills. They're not going to have that communication other than within that family dynamic or setting. And they're going to be timid. They're going to be shy. They're going to be introverted.
Yeah.
And growing up as a kid in the 70s and 80s, we would wake up, go outside, and would not be seen till it was dark again.
Right.
We would be
Even
out
in the
and about.
90s. I can attest to it. Even in the 90s. If you wanted to find us, go look to see where our bikes were. That's where we were.
Yep.
And it's just, I mean, and as much as I love these little girls, JP's nieces, all three of them have tablets. All three of them have cell phones. Paige, I understand. She's almost 15. Fine. She can have her cell phones this way. If she wants to go out with a friend and needs a way to get home, she has a way to call to get home, because there's no such thing as fucking payphones anymore. God fucking forbid. But the 7-year-old and the 5-year-old, they don't need cell phones. They don't need tablets. So with that, and they have those things, and yes, they still play with their toys, but they still prefer their tablets over their toys. And that's when you get the spoiled behavior, especially at the youngest one, who sits there and goes, "Oh, I want that. No, you can't have that. Oh, but I want it. Oh, but you're not getting it." Which is why she really didn't like it when I babysat her. Just saying. But
Oh, and then you've also got the aspect of, I mean, we grew up with puzzles and books and games that stick
look, you cut out there, Ronnie.
in mind. I mean, constantly looking at a phone, constantly looking at a tablet or a laptop or a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's things on there, but it's just like the idea of getting a puzzle and sitting down with your brother, your sister, or your family and doing a family interaction and an activity, or even board games. I mean, it's sad. You go in, like, these toy stores are all closed up now, and it's like you don't even see like board games. Like, we would have a Monopoly night, or we would have a Payday night or a Life night, something that you could do as a family or interact with other kids when they came over for sleepovers and stuff like that. But it's just nowadays, I mean, even with sleepovers, it's like, why do I have to have a sleepover? I mean, I can just get on the PS1 or the Xbox and I can talk to my friend from that.
Exactly. And again, it hurts their social behavior because of the fact that they're being isolated and they only know how to act by themselves. So you're going to get the misbehaving. You're going to get the children that are out there fucking causing riots and all that shit. Because, again, their social bubble is all internet. And it's not just Toys R Us there, Danrax. It's also FAO Schwartz.
Yeah, I was going to say, you had that and the KB Toys.
Yeah.
KB Toys.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you got all these great toy stores that, poof,
And
because they could not keep up with the internet and online shopping.
Right.
But
And
even with that, Amazon, even on Amazon, you can still buy a board game. But no, your kid has to have something battery operated. God forbid.
Right, or something technological.
Right.
And I mean, we're even seeing it now flowing into with the wrestling. I mean, their promos are on Twitter.
Exactly.
They do some of this stuff in ring and on the shows, but you see it's ventured into the social media, Facebook, Twitter. And it's what everybody just seems to go to, and it just fuels the fire with everything in today's society.
Yeah, it's in a case of like Ronda Rousey, she has her own YouTube channel. Sheamus, Xavier Woods, they all have their own YouTube channels as well, and they're out there broadcasting this shit over their YouTube channels too. So it's even more a fact of, well, fuck. Everything is social media, social media, social media, and then you have these kids who their parents babied them and basically kept them away from everybody else and said, you can't trust that person because you don't know if they're going to kidnap you.
Right.
Well, that's your job as a fucking parent, to sit there and keep an eye on them. Don't go let them play outside and sit in the fucking house on a computer. You sit your fucking lazy ass outside with your fucking kid and keep an eye on your fucking kid. Because you know, as an adult, what this fucking world and what this society is capable of. So therefore, you need to protect your child even more in that way.
Right, because you don't know who they're talking to. You don't know who they're associating with in the gaming rooms, and you don't know who's on the other end of those computers and tablets and gaming streams. It's just it's a scary, unknown world out there, and it could be anybody and anybody pretending to be somebody. And face to face, at least then you see the presence, even though you may not know behind the presence. You have and as a parent, you have like a spidey sense.
Yeah.
That something is off. It's very hard to do that when you're in a chat room or you're in a gaming stream, to know what you could basically feel or just have a sense of when you're in the presence of somebody.
Exactly. And yes, you need to be careful, but you also don't want to hinder your child to the point that they're not even going to talk to their teachers.
True.
So, again, it's your job as the parent to step up and protect your kid in that way. However, you also need to let that kid be a fucking kid. I mean, you can't sit there and wrap them up in bubble wrap and expect them to grow up and be normal. I'm sorry. It's not going to work that way. Kids are going to run, they're going to fall, they're going to hurt themselves in one way or another. What you have to do is sit there and laugh at it, so that they learn to laugh at it and realize, okay, it's not that bad.
Right, and it also gives kids the ability to be around other kids their age and share and learn, and just different cultures with kids, that Billy's family does this, and little Wendy's parents do this, and it also engages the parents.
Right.
Because you're setting up play dates and you're setting up sleepovers and you're having parties. And it's allowing the kids to be kids, and they get that little sense of freedom because mom and dad aren't around. And then they can kind of see, okay, well, what can I get away with? Or, well, what can I try? Or what can I learn also being around?
Exactly. It comes down to the fact of, okay, I'm out here with my friend who is Jewish. I'm not Jewish. Let me see what I can learn on my own from visualizing everything here, seeing everything visually, seeing how they do it, learning from them directly how this religion works. Or this family is more politically driven than my family is. Let me pick their brains and let me learn from them certain things as well. It gives them that opportunity to learn something on their own, which again helps them with their developmental issues. And as you can tell, I cannot talk tonight. So it's just one of those things that gets under my skin. And it's just always something that I said, even before I was even old enough to really think about having children, that I sat there and said, I would never do that. Because being that I grew up in a family that brought me to a racetrack when I was 4 years old and said, yeah, go play over there. And just let me go run off and do whatever the fuck I wanted. As long as I stayed within the racetrack. They didn't care. it helped me out with that. Plus, having to have moved so many different times throughout my childhood because of my family renting homes and the rent going up and us not being able to afford it, I had to basically learn how to make friends really quick everywhere I went. Otherwise, I was going to be one lonely person.
Right, and that's another thing that it gives the child to experience too. It's not the child's fault that the parents have to move due to an economical situation, or maybe dad's in the military, but it gives them a chance to interact with different kids. Unfortunately, due to some circumstances, it also gives them the sense of loss because they've lost that friendship that they had or that kinship with another child that they may have gone to school with for a couple years. I was, at least until age 15, able to stay within my same school district through middle school, elementary school, and high school. So everybody I kind of grew up with all lived in the same development. We were all kind of around the same age. So we all had that. But at 15, I was kind of out on my own. So it was kind of, I had school and work that I dealt with. So my interaction between school, then out in the workforce and stuff like that, it helped me grow up a lot quicker. And every child's situation is different. But being that I grew up in a development with a lot of boys, there were only 3 girls in the actual development that we lived in. Till we got to school and interacted, it was the tomboy mentality. For us to fit in, we played with the boys, we built forts, we climbed trees.
Exactly.
We were in the woods, we were in the mud pits and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a well-rounded, because I had other kids, but then I also had, when I got to school and I had sleepovers, well, she's got Barbies and she's got the Barbie car and the Barbie house. And it was just, then is where all the girl stuff and the tomboyish stuff started going away. And then, of course, getting into middle school, it was all the makeup and the dressing up and stuff like that, but not closed off to the aspect of, oh, well, you can't play with him because he's a boy, and boys don't do that.
And that's where I don't get it. I mean, we used to have this open thing where, you know what, it doesn't matter, boy or girl, you can play with that person. And we don't have that anymore. And it's just like, oh, well, that little boy has the tendency to put his hands where it's not supposed to be. Well, hello, parenting? You're supposed to correct that as the parent. I mean, come on. You know, or this little girl has an attitude problem. Again, parenting. Your job to fix it. So
right, you can always tell the ones that are given everything, or the maid's raising them, or mom and dad aren't around much because they get away with a lot more. They were the ones that had the parties and stuff like that because mom and dad weren't home or they were away.
Or mom and dad are separated and mommy's doing better, so daddy looks bad, or vice versa.
Right, I can't play with little Sarah because she's at dad's house this weekend. I can only see her during the week and stuff like that. And there's just so much that kids have to endure in social situations and settings, but keeping them isolated and not preparing them for the real world. It's like, reality sets in for a lot of these kids, unfortunately, and they're not prepared.
And a lot of times it does not hit them until college.
Yes.
And that's even more a disservice from the parents. You cannot coddle your children. Yes, when they're sick and all of that, you know, you can coddle them all you want, but you know what, when it comes to letting them experience the world, letting them meet new people that you trust as a parent, let them do it. Let them do it. Because otherwise, you're going to end up with one shy little bastard on your hand that's going to be clinging to your leg until they're 30.
Yep, unfortunately. And it doesn't prepare them, too, for the workforce, because it's luckily with where I was, I mean, I had no choice. I mean, I had to go out into the workforce. I still wanted to continue my education, so I continued through school. But today it's like, well, these kids don't even know how to do resumes or how to go to a job interview. It was amazing the way I would see people dressed.
Yep.
They're going in for a job interview and they were there like they were going to the beach.
Yeah.
And it's just the resumes are full of errors and inconsistencies and not properly, I mean, the grammar in that, and it's just, oh well, if I don't get this one, I'll try for the next one or try for that. But even going to college and trying to get a degree in something doesn't guarantee you that when you get out into the workforce that
You're going
that's
to be working in that.
right. You're going to be in that field, and you need to prepare yourself. And for me, unfortunately, yeah, I mean, I started young, I continued on, and then still continuing with the mentality of, yes, your work ethic, your education, and yeah, the social media aspect of it, and the interaction on a daily basis with other people, because when you isolate yourself, that affects you not even, I mean, physically, mentally, emotionally. And if you're already at 5, 6 years of age and that is already beginning for you, and you continue that on, and the parent is not helping you along, they're basically hindering the child. And it's setting them, to me, up for failure down the road. That
Exactly.
unfortunately, reality is going to slap them in the face, and they're either going to have to push through it and sink or swim. And to me, that I think that's just unfair as a parent to put your child in that situation for failure. It's just like you're supposed to push them towards something or a goal of something and to help them. And most parents today, I'm not saying all parents do this, but it's a matter of if you want your child to succeed or you want your child to have a better life than you did, and helping them out in whatever way, I'm not saying not to, but I'm not saying that you have to hover over them and keep them protected to the point where they're not going to succeed socially or academically or professionally.
Right.
And it's going to hurt them down the line, and it's going to take them longer to get to the point that they need unless they figure it out on their own. And even in a social setting with kids, you'll see like the kid that doesn't share. And then you have the kid that might fight back, the bully.
Or the biter.
Right. And then you have the one that kind of is like the mediator. So that's even in today's society with work. I mean, you have the different aspects of the different people in your work, people you interact with on social media, people that you interact with on a daily basis at the grocery store or the local mini market. You kind of get to know people, and you can kind of judge and read for yourself the type of person they are. But if you've got somebody that is closed off and isolated, you're not going to get that comfortable feeling, or that feeling that this child or this person is comfortable in the situation that they're in, and it's like, okay, well, what can you do to help them, or what can you do to push them to succeed? And they're so far behind then at that point, you're basically starting from ground zero.
Right. And it does them a disservice. And another place that really does a disservice to so many different things. And I'm sure Dan Rex can attest to this, is kids with the mental issues, whether it be mental retardation, autism, Down syndrome, anything like that. you have some of these parents out there that sit there, "Oh, well, my child can't do this because of this, and I don't want them to get hurt, so I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to do this to protect them, and I'm going to do this to keep them away from everything," and it's just, that hurts them even more. If your child is autistic and cannot handle all of the sensory going on with being around so many people, or just can't handle certain situations, then yes, absolutely keep them away from it. However, if the autism is not affected by a lot of people or any kind of things like that, let them go out and experience the world. Don't hold them back because of their disability. I mean, that does another big disservice to them.
Right, because when they do eventually come across somebody that's not going to tolerate it, or somebody that's going to bully them, or someone that's going to pick on them, they're not going to know how to react to it.
Exactly.
Or they're going to shut down, unfortunately, and then how are you helping them overcome that or deal with it?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I know there's all different aspects with learning disabilities and mental disabilities and capabilities, but for me as a parent, it's then at that point take a little bit of extra effort, or put them in a program, or allow them to be around situations that can prepare them for what could possibly happen. Not saying it would, but then they're at least conscious of it and would know how to react to it, opposed to shutting down and becoming depressed or becoming picked on and bullied and not being able to possibly read a book. There's just so many things out there that you could do or guide your child in the right direction for that to cope and handle.
Exactly. And it's, again, when it comes to the mental issues, it's definitely something that should not be the main thing for you to hold your kid back. Let them go out and experience it, so this way you can find out for yourself if they can handle it. And of course, with them being mentally disabled, they need to learn the boundaries of public social interaction. And holding them back from that is not going to help them learn a damn thing. So,
well, and it's even the mentality of, I mean, you take your child to Walmart, and we've all seen it. You've got the child that wants something, the parent tells them no, they throw the temper tantrum. And for a parent, it's embarrassing, yes. For a parent that wants to get in, get whatever they have to have done, that's the only time available. They're having to deal with the child, they're having to deal with the groceries, they're having to deal with in line, the cashier, you got people around you. But it's life. And that at least would be an enabling tool right there to work with your child in a setting like that. Okay, we're out in public, you don't do this, you don't do that. If I say no, you can't have it. But then you have the other spectrum where you got a parent that just lets them run wild, lets them scream their head off, because you see that and you're thinking, okay, this is in a public setting. Just imagine in a private setting, in their home, how this child acts or how they deal with it.
Exactly.
And you don't know the extreme, and maybe it's a cry for attention from the child to get what he wants because he knows he might not get it at home. Or I saw one the other day, and it was the cutest thing. It was 2 sets of twins, and the mom had a little one in her arm, carrying her, and the 2 little girl twins were dressed alike. The 2 little boy twins were dressed alike. She had this infant on her. She's going down the cereal aisle. Every kid wanted a different cereal. She's pushing this cart. And I guess grandpa was with them. And it's like, how some parents do it, bless their heart. I had one, and there were times I just could not wait to get out of the grocery store because a lot of times that was our bonding time together because I worked and we would go like from daycare and stuff like that. But a lot of people don't have that free ability to drop their kids off at daycare or drop their kids off to grandparent, and they have to take them with them. And they cringe. I got to go into this store. I know how they're going to act because they're going to want this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
But I looked at it as it was a time for us to be together. We would go up and down the aisles. We would clip coupons together, take the coupons with us. He knew with the coupon, that's what he would get. So it was also learning too, because it was look at the price and stuff like that. But a lot of parents, because they're so busy or they're single parent and they don't have a lot of time with the kids and stuff like that, it's just so many different things. And it's just, you can kind of see the dynamic when they're acting out in the public setting, even in restaurants and stuff like that, what it actually could possibly be, just probably 10 times worse at home.
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, and usually when it comes down to it, when we're out in the store, if Wendy starts screaming, it's because she's either hungry or she needs her diaper changed. And that's it. Otherwise, the lights on the ceiling or the movement of the cart is enough to keep her calm. So, and I really hate those people that sit there and let their kids just scream and rant and rave in the middle of the store. Because it's just, yes, you may be sitting there and just ignoring the child to give them that time to blow off their steam and tire themselves out. But that's not the proper way to teach them how to behave in public.
Right. I mean, every experience with a child's a learning experience. And they, at times, teach you more than you're teaching them.
Exactly.
And especially with patience.
Yes.
Patience is a virtue with a child, but when you have a disabled child or a child with a learning disability or a child that cannot cope in social situations, it is a lot more, and patience is always, like they say, a virtue.
Yes.
And if you don't have the patience in your own daily structured life, that's going to project onto the child, and the child's going to become frustrated. And then it's just a vicious cycle there where you're battling each other, or you're arguing with each other, or you're fighting with each other, and it just makes everything much more tense. But today's society, it's just rush, 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 busy, 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 instant gratification. And it's just easier to say, okay, here's a tablet. Play on the tablet, give mommy
5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes of just silence, please.
Right. And I mean, that's the thing. It's just, a lot of parents do schedule that too. It's like, okay, this is your technology time. When I was growing up, it was TV time. We earned TV time. So we were busy though. I played baseball with the boys. I played volleyball. I played tennis. I was involved with stuff with school. And then, of course, as the older I got, it was school, work, and then just different things going on with life, with me trying to further my education and stuff like that. So I didn't have my son till I was like 28 years old. So it was a lot later in life, but it was just, that wasn't my game plan. It's just, I had certain things that came up and cropped up in my life, unfortunately, that didn't allow me to start a family when I wanted to. It started a lot later, but I also had a career started under my belt, which helped me out. But I also started my career a lot earlier than most people. Unfortunately, it was just the circumstance I was in. And you learn to adapt.
Right.
But when you're throwing kids, unfortunately, into isolation mode, that's what's going to make it harder for them down the road to adapt. Or you got the other hand where you got everyone that's everything's given to them.
Right.
They're going to expect it.
I mean,
and when they don't get their way, then that's when your temper tantrums start, or your attitude, or your entitlement.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to have kids a little earlier in my life, just like you. However, of course, cards didn't play out that way. I didn't have Wendy until I was 32, but it's also things work themselves out in a way that it's better suited for your life at that moment.
Mhm.
Because with me having Wendy at this point and being with JP, I can sit there and be the stay-at-home mom until she starts going to school. Because he makes enough that he can support the family that way. However, in certain situations, if I was still in New York and got pregnant, I would not be able to be that stay-at-home mom. So it would have definitely changed the aspect of everything that the beginning stages of Wendy's life. I mean, she's got me 24/7. So, oh, excuse me.
Right,
I'm
and with
trying
that,
to
I mean,
instill in her certain values that my parents instilled in me. Because when she's sitting in her swing and she's crying and crying and crying for no reason, I just let her sit there and cry and cry and cry until she tires herself out. But we're home. So it's a different story. If we're out in public and she's crying and crying and crying, I do everything I can to quiet her down.
right, and that's one thing. I mean, a child does need to comfort itself, and in your situation, with being able to stay at home, with JP out working and stuff like that, it works for your dynamic, and
Right.
it's going to enable her. She sees daddy when he comes home. Mommy's had me all day. Now she wants daddy's attention. And then with her crying like that, it's just, you have to get things done too. So it's like her crying for 5 to 10 minutes, unless she is in pain, unless she is starving,
Okay.
or she is soaked to the point where it's dripping through her little seat, she can basically, that will help her to know, okay, mommy's not going to pick me up every time I cry.
Right. Because
And
eventually it's going to get to the point where I'm doing, because I'm going to, a little announcement for everybody here on the show. I'm going to be starting up my own knitting business here at home. So this way I can still be a stay-at-home mom, but also start working as well. And start generating a little bit more money just to help out in ways that I can. So with me trying to teach her how to do that, I will actually be able to get some work done while she is sitting there either playing with her feet or comforting herself in her swing.
And I mean, even with me, I mean, I had that luxury, which was nice too. I mean, I worked eventually. I was working a full-time job and then a part-time job and then a third part-time job. But the one that I was able to work at home, homework was being done. I was doing stuff for that part of the part-time job, on the computer. So it would be okay, I would look away, check homework. We would engage in conversation. And one thing that I always, as Austin was growing up, was we always had sit down dinners.
Uh-huh.
And it gave us that 15 to 20 minutes of me preparing it, or with him just sitting around and telling me about his day and telling me about what was going on. And to this day, I mean, he's 19 years old and we still have the conversations. We still converse every day. We still have talks. We still have the sit down. If I'm not eating right now, I'm sitting down talking with him about his day, my day. So it's something that I've instilled in him, but it's also something that was passed down from my grandmother to my family, where it was Sundays was always the big Italian family dinner, but it was something that we always did. But with everybody I know, busy schedules, even if you did it twice a week or once a week, something just to engage or interact with your child, it gives them that they can show you things that they've done and things that they've accomplished during that time period from your last talk. And it gives them the attention that they need, that they don't feel that isolation too. And that they're looking for other means to keep them occupied. I mean, the one job I had, he was so little, I kept him in a cart because I handled the money room. And the sound of the money machine would put him to sleep, but I was able to set up in a cart and put him in that while I worked in that room. So, I mean, he was always with me at times if I wasn't out and about working, but the luxury of working at home and then having another parent out, and just like your case right now, you had that little bit of downtime because JP went out and he took Wendy.
Right.
So, I mean, it gives you that little bit of downtime, and with you on here, that gives you something you enjoy, and that doesn't affect you where you need the break and you're burning out and you're getting sick. And there's just so many family dynamics nowadays and so many family situations. It's just like everybody forgets about seeing families back in the 50s and 60s and 70s on TV, how happy and all they were. And it's just because you had that. And nowadays it's just social media and nobody's communicating. It just kind of all leads to how you're being raised or how you were brought
How your
up.
family
If it works
dynamic
for
is.
you, yeah, if it works for you, great. But if it's not working and you're constantly fighting and arguing and frustrated, then it's just like, well, maybe we need to try something new.
Exactly, and that's why you have the situation where you have the divorced parents, the step parents, and all of that. I mean, like with JP and his family, technically, I have, because of how our situation is, technically, I have a stepdaughter. Wendy has a half sister, and I have 2 step grandchildren by this family dynamic. But that's just because that family dynamic didn't work. So. And you have so many different ways. So you have that. You have the families that are, you have the gays and lesbians creating their own family dynamics, going along, mixing in with everything, along with the divorced parents, the step parents, the widowed parents as well. So it's like my dad, he's widowed now because my mom passed away 3 years ago. And then on top of that, you have, with some of these family dynamics, especially when it comes to the divorced parents, you have some that just try and create a toxic situation. Because you have the mothers that sit there and try and turn the children against their father. You have the fathers that sit there and try and turn the children against their mothers. You have mothers that are sitting there out there buying everything and anything for their kids, trying to make their father look like they're nothing, or vice versa. You have the father buying everything for the kids, trying to make the mother look like she's nothing. So when it comes to situations like that, it's not the best of environments for the kid to grow up in. And then that's also where some of these personality disorders come into play. Because that's what they are when it comes right down to it. It's a personality disorder. It's a fixable personality disorder, yes. However, it's still something that is created and is not really the best of situations in any kind of situation. So.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we like what's the old saying? You can choose your friends, you can't choose your family, and it's how you're brought up and how you're raised. And just recently, and I believe we were talking on a Skype call with Gina, the situation with Luke Perry.
Yes.
When he was in that hospital room and they made that decision for him, he had his ex-wife, he had his current or future wife, he had his family and his kids. Mm-hmm. And they all came together, animosity aside, but apparently that was the family dynamic. They all got along for the sake of the children.
Right.
They all had a relationship within the family dynamic that they all got along, whereas some, they can't exist due to whatever reasonings beyond, but for the children's sake, that should always be front and center. And it shouldn't be, oh, well, I'm not telling him about your upcoming event, or I'm not going to allow him to come to this event because he wants to bring so and so or she wants to bring so and so. All that aside, it should be for the children. Everything should be for that aspect of raising that child, because you two did make that decision to have the child. And just because you couldn't get along, you don't take it out on the child.
Exactly. And then you have the situations where my dad's boss, her and her husband just could not live together. They love each other to death, but they could not stand living together. So they're still married, but they're living separately. But it works for them, and it works for their kids as well. So the stranger things have happened.
Oh, yeah. I mean, family dynamic is what you make of it.
I mean, look at it this way. You know, I'm all the way in Texas. Ronnie's all the way in Florida. No.
He's got the dog.
And
she's got all the good food.
Speaking of little ones.
Oh, she's back.
Yeah, did you enjoy your car ride? Huh?
Slept.
It's good.
Yeah, that's what we thought she would do.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Going to sleep?
speaking of dogs,
Oh, Bijou.
hi.
There's Bijou.
Hi, Bijou.
Hey, little puppy.
Well, I mean, look, seriously, guys, like, look how big she is getting now.
I know.
She's like big old fatty.
That just means you're doing the right thing by her.
Yeah. Getting all that love and attention.
Exactly.
It's like Wendy.
Yep.
Getting all that love and attention.
She's jealous. She's jealous because she's not the baby no more.
Exactly. She's got competition.
She's got competition.
I think we've bored the non-parents enough here with this talk. Oh, looks like you spit up a little bit there, kid. Oh, well. And that's the other thing we're dealing with. It's the frustrating part of her of not being able to keep her food down. Even though there's nothing wrong with her. Mm-hmm. So, that's the fun part.
I think it may be too with her because the way you say she eats, that she's eating so much and she's getting that air too. And I know you try to burp her between, but I think it might be a little bit with the overeating. If she's eating and eating and eating and then constantly wanting to eat again, it just might be a little overfill.
It could be, yeah.
Because I mean, I know you tried like the gas drops and stuff like that, along with the formula to get for the vomiting and stuff like that. But I mean, it looks that there's times where one of you are holding her, and I see where she is spitting up, and it doesn't look like a lot.
No, it's not. It's basically half an ounce each and every time. So.
Okay. So I mean, it just may be an adjustment with her belly and stuff like that too.
You know, we got the gripe water for her to help with the gas and any colic and any hiccups she might get. And then from there, I also got her a new formula. We did have her on the Similac Spit Up formula, but apparently she's still spitting up with that. So I got her the Pro Advanced for sensitive tummies.
Okay.
We're going to give that a try once we're done
Yeah,
with the Spit
I mean,
Up
it's
formula.
trial and error.
Exactly. We'll
I mean,
figure it out.
Yeah, it's a learning curve.
That it is. But with that being said, I think we should move on to the one topic that gets everybody on this call talking and raging quite a bit, and that's wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's back, so.
Well, more
Let's
specifically.
not talk about that. Let's talk about the amazing conversation we had last night where we were discussing on whether or not pineapple makes your sperm taste better.
Oh, Lord, here we go.
Whether or not pineapple makes your sperm taste good.
Well, you know what the funny fucking thing about that whole fucking conversation is you're sitting there, it's Men's Health, and they open up with the line of Have you ever wondered? Said no guy ever.
Well, you're
Unless
forgetting about 20% of the population there, Johnny.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I forgot some of them. I did one. Forgive me. Oh my God.
No, but more specifically with the wrestling topic, we're going to be going on with the social media aspect behind the wrestling promos, and as well as the fickle, yes, I said fickle, wrestling fans that are out there.
Oh my God. I was thinking about it's somewhat off topic, but it's somewhat related. Because, like, for the past couple weeks, like, it's been a lot of very heated debates over, like, Attitude Era stuff versus what's now, and
Right.
especially when it comes to the women. And, the one thing I take away from a lot of it is a lot of times, and you know me, I'm the biggest critic of WWE that there is.
Right.
But I think a lot of times, especially as wrestling podcasters and fans in general, I think a lot of times WWE gets maybe a little too much of the blame for stuff that goes on.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, like, some of the shit that happened during the Attitude Era, they were maybe uncomfortable. They may regret doing it. But the bottom line is they did it.
Exactly.
Right.
And, like, one of the biggest, like, controversial, and I swear to God this would get me in a lot of trouble, but one of the biggest ones that we can all agree was not a needed segment, it was very unruly, was the Trish barking like a dog segment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Very uncomfortable. They even admitted they should have never done it.
Probably in the back.
But at the same time, two things I always like to point out. One, they don't talk about the other half of that story. That segment, rather. And then two, was it fucked up WWE did it? Yeah, definitely. It was definitely fucked up. But at the same time, she did it. And when it always comes down to the one thing that I always go back to, it always goes back to the same thing: money.
Did you try it? Okay. Right. And honestly, when it comes down to it, okay, I'm getting the googly eyes here. Hold on. When it comes down to it, yes. Woo-hoo. A lot of it is indeed the debate between the fans like Johnny and I, who've been watching this product since the Attitude Era, and these new fans. And then on top of that, you have the casual fans, which they don't help the subject at all. Because, frankly, their opinions don't mean shit. I mean, you have these people, just recently, actually, people sitting there cheering for, I forget who it was. They were cheering Ronda Rousey. And then a week later, with no explanation in it whatsoever, they booed Ronda Rousey.
Because it's fucking Becky Lynch.
It wasn't even involving Becky Lynch. It was the first match she had with Charlotte.
That's why they were booing. It's because Becky Lynch wasn't in it.
And that's Becky Lynch's old fault. Because, again, this is a injury-prone bitch.
It's all about fucking Becky Lynch for some reason, and I don't fucking get it. Why does it have to be about one fucking person? Didn't we have a problem with this with fucking Roman Reigns for 4 fucking years?
Yep.
Exactly.
Fucking the hypocritical fucking bullshit that I fucking have to put up with on a fucking daily basis in social media because of fucking Becky Lynch. I mean, I compare it to Roman Reigns because they're doing exactly the same fucking thing that they did with Roman Reigns. And people just seem to think that it's better with fucking Becky Lynch. I don't get it.
You know what? I often wonder if they're not doing it because if they do say anything, negative towards it, they get viewed as like misogynistic.
That could be.
I almost wonder because if you notice that's been my whole criticism about the women's division in the past couple of years. It seems like if you criticize anything about it, then it's a huge problem if you do.
Well, and again, that's the casual fans. And certain fucking feminazis that are out there who think the Iconics are the fucking gloriousness of the entire fucking world. I'm sorry, but no.
Fuck things.
No. The Iconics are fucking garbage. I said it. Fucking garbage.
Dude, I got blocked for saying that by some idiot online.
We know, Trek. We know. You even know this.
It's just these people, the feminazis in and of themselves are a fucking problem to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for them to, some of them are so fucking bad that they attacked Paige because she stood up for the company. But in a way, she didn't stand up for the company. Because if you actually read that fucking tweet, you idiots out there, plain and fucking simple, she said both the fans and the company are to blame for the women's division to have been held back. Both situations, both crowds. Okay? Company and fan. One and the same, all the same issue. Those were her words. She didn't sit there and say it was just the fans and that the company was just fantastic about everything.
Right. Well, and even look at all the backlash when they announced the Hall of Fame for Tori Wilson.
That's another thing. This fucking woman was one of the top entertainers of World Wrestling Entertainment back in the 2000s.
I agree.
Of course she fucking deserves a spot in the goddamn Hall of Fame. She's going in before fucking Sable, at least, people. Come on.
Well, here's the thing. Does she deserve to go in over other people? No. But she does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't care what anybody says.
Right, and I agree too. And with especially this year, we're getting China.
Exactly.
We're getting China with DX. We're getting China though, and my feeling on it is yes, Tori was part of that era with the bra and panty matches and the ability with
the Playboy Bunny.
She was in
over
WCW and WWE, but even Miss Elizabeth as a consideration that you're with putting her in before that. To me, it would have been nice to see Miss Elizabeth as the female with China going in as the DX part, but we're getting China at least.
Exactly.
And
so technically, this year we're getting two women into the Hall of Fame
right.
when we typically only get one.
Right. But yeah, there are others that are more deserving. I know Victoria's name was thrown out there, but they're eventually all going to get in. And you got some in there that don't even deserve to be in.
Our friend Drew over on Derailed brought up the case of the exception for certain things, for certain people. Well, yeah, there's certain exceptions for certain people because of the fact of what they've done for the company or what they see as the publicity that they can get off of this person for the company. And you're talking about a handful of people compared to over 100 people that are just about in the Hall of Fame right now. You're talking about a handful of people compared to all of the people that are in the Hall of Fame to begin with. I know. You're getting hungry. So, and honestly, these fans today, yes, we as podcasters have our opinions on what's going on with the shows and what's going on in the news of the wrestlers. Baby girl, come on, please. See, this is why I can't do a show anymore, apparently.
Wendy, come on now.
Can you make her a bottle when you get a chance? Well, it's either that or she screams all through my show. So.
And everybody has their opinions. I mean, I like certain individuals. Johnny likes certain individuals. You guys like certain individuals. Not everyone's going to have the same opinion.
Exactly.
But in the aspect of the Hall of Fame, it's just a matter of, yes, everybody's had their achievements. Everyone's had their moments. And they're eventually going to get in. Unfortunately, some of them are getting in after they've passed away, where we think they should have been put in sooner. But the biggest accomplishment this year with Chyna especially, and people are still complaining because she's not going in as a singles. But for me, she started out with DX.
Exactly. DX is what introduced her to the company and the fans.
Right, that makes sense, putting her in with DX. But you've also got ones that are up and coming. They're eventually all going to get in there. And like we said, we're getting 2 women this year opposed to 1.
Exactly. And everybody's sitting there. And again, as you said, they're bitching about Chyna getting in with DX. She's getting in, people. Shut your fucking mouth.
The problem with wrestling fans today is... Actually, to be honest with you, SmackDown and Raw have not been bad. They haven't been great, but there hasn't really... I mean, there's always something to bitch about. I mean, you can find it. But there's nothing really to complain about. And this shit that's going on with Tori Wilson, or the shit with the fucking crowd, it gives them something to bitch about. Certain podcasters, something to bitch about, or something to complain about because they don't have anything to complain about. Because like Johnny said on the fucking show, I think it was last week, yeah, it was last Monday, they're giving us intriguing enough stories to want us to have to watch next week.
Exactly, and not only that, they're actually advancing storylines, whereas before they didn't. They just continuously gave us the same crap over and over again.
Where they're overlapping them into SmackDown. Whatever's happening on Raw is flowing into SmackDown for some things.
Right.
Well, think about this too. I mean, and here's something that I think a lot of people kind of forgot, especially on our end, is that I was not watching for like ever since what was it? The Greatest Royal Rumble?
Yes.
No.
I wasn't.
No, the Crown Jewel.
Crown Jewel. I had stopped watching and said I wasn't going to watch. And it was interesting enough for me, who had said I might come back if it's interesting enough for me to come back.
Right.
Well, the fact that I'm back watching the show and actually watching it instead of sitting there going off of what people are saying should tell you how much better the product has gotten.
Exactly. And again, these fans, because there's not anything to readily bitch about without having to go back and watch the shows again.
Honestly, it's not even the fans, it's the podcasters.
Well, they're fans.
That's true.
You do have these certain big name podcasters out there that are bitching and complaining about every fucking thing they see, and then all of a sudden, you have these other big name podcasters out there who are actually liking the product.
Right.
I mean, generally, people, yes, we as podcasters are giving you our opinions. Some of these podcasters need to remember that it's just an opinion, and their opinion has no effect on the fucking company.
Well, and then too, like, you know, I know what some people, well, you guys pick apart the show all the time. Well, that's kind of what we do.
It's what we're supposed to do as a podcaster.
We're supposed, but generally, like, let me put it this way: if what you see us do on a podcast is not necessarily what happens outside of that podcast. Like when we all get together and do a Skype call and just watch a pay-per-view, we're not critiquing. There's a difference between when we're live and we're actually, because we're like, JPE has always been the critic, and he's the hard critic, and Bobbitt's always, Bobbitt I kind of consider as the fan guy.
Right.
And which is not a bad thing. That he is the fan guy. He likes a lot of stuff that me and JP don't particularly care for. Or you have Heather as the women perspective, Gina as the sort of the indie perspective, and then you have me as sort of the heel analytics guy.
Right.
Hey, or the person that puts like, here's like bottom line what's going on. And I think that's what people will tend to forget. Like what the biggest difference I see from a lot of podcasters and not us is that that's more or less their real life scenario where, yeah, they may be playing a character or they may not be, but they really are into this stuff. A lot of our stuff is, a lot of us are playing characters.
Right. And bottom line, it's just our opinions that we're putting out there. We're not sitting there saying that, the company needs to do this. In our opinion, if the company wanted to do something good, they could do this.
Right,
What we try to do is I try to watch the show and say give my opinion on what I think they could do.
Mm-hmm.
Not what they should do, what they could do. What I've given my perspective of what I would like to see. Now, I'm not always going to get what I want, but that's my job as a podcaster or as a live reaction, to give you my live reaction and also say, yeah, you know what? I wouldn't have done this here if it was me. If I was running the show, this is what I would have done. And not fucking bitch, piss, moan, and complain if something doesn't go your fucking way.
Right, and like, was somebody trying to talk? I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
Well, and my thing is that, like, for example, like I went hardline on about the Charlotte thing.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, I don't really give a fuck about it. But if you want what, in my ideal world, what I would have done, that's the scenario. What my opinion is what I would go with.
Right.
But a lot of times, but there's a difference. That's what I would do. I'm not expecting WWE to do that.
Exactly. It's our opinions and what we would like to see to make the product better for us. As far as what we would find entertaining. And that's the idea of a fucking podcast, people. To put your opinions out there.
Agreed.
Not to sit there and try and use your viewers and what you got for views as something to sit there and say, oh, well, the company should be listening to me because I am just a fucking genius. No, you're really not. Sorry, but you're not.
And then go and make fun of somebody's mental, medical conditions.
Yeah. Because they're that pathetic in their own life, so.
Yeah.
Notice me! Well, and that's the thing. I mean, opinions, everyone has one. And if everyone had the same opinion, how boring would life be?
Exactly.
And it's like when Johnny and JP, the two, one is being critical, the other one's being the optimistic and positive view, and you get that back and forth. That's what's engaging to see. Okay, this is how I'm seeing it. This is how I'm seeing it. And then, of course, with Bobbitt being the youngest with the viewing, and he's liking the stuff where we're basically saying we don't want to see it again because we've seen it or whatever. And you're getting everyone's aspect and opinion, but it's not in concrete. It's not, oh, we all agree, we're all happy, we're all kissy kissy. That is what makes it interesting. And being on the show and hearing the different aspects of everybody and what they think and how they feel and what we've seen and what we're going to see, that's what makes it. I mean, if you're always going to be on there negative, then yeah, just expect that from that individual. If you're always going to be on there positive, kissing WWE's butt, then you're going to expect it every time you watch that one. It's just the matter of everyone doesn't like vanilla ice cream. So it's the same with us. I mean, everyone has a different opinion, and it's not just on wrestling. It's all matters of topics. Bless Wendy. So that's the thing. I mean, everyone has a different opinion on every aspect of life, and that's what makes the world go around, and that's what makes for engaging conversations and engaging podcasts.
That is.
It's true, and unfortunately, we have so many people out there that sit there and think they are God, and that their opinion is the only one that should ever fucking matter, because their ego is bigger than their dick.
Or somebody telling me that I need to get on board with something when, you know what, dude? If I don't want to fucking watch it, I'm not gonna fucking watch it.
Well, like, and partially that is partially our, my fault, because people need to understand. People tend to forget, and I'm breaking kayfabe here, but people tend to forget that even JP stated it. He brought me to, the whole reason why I'm on the show is to be that antagonist to JP when it needs it. So if I'm pushing him that he needs to be on, like the whole Rusev Day gimmick, I don't care if he don't like it or not. That's his, Oh, I don't care if he don't like high spots or not. He likes what he likes, and that's perfectly fine. But I think what people tend to forget is that, again, I go back to the original statement. We're a podcast, but we're also our own entity of a show.
Right.
And JP, which I think is brilliantly done, that realistically nobody else has been able to think of, is to bring in people that can play characters, but still give engaging, good, analytical, or good opinions.
Exactly. And not force those opinions on everybody that's watching.
Right. And so that's the thing I think people tend to forget is that, yes, well, me and JP go at it, but honestly, if you looked at it outside of the podcast itself, there have been, I don't know how many pay-per-views or shows where me and him sounded like we're in screaming matches. And at the end of the show, we're like, you good? Yeah, I'm good. What's going on? What are we doing tomorrow?
Right.
If it was really we were at each other's throats all the time, do you really think I would still be on the show?
Do you think there would still be a show?
Right. It's that
honestly, if JP's going to be that fucking grumpy and angry all the time, he would have had a heart attack by now.
Right.
And it is. It's the mutual respect that everyone's opinions respected. I mean, a year ago, at the end of this month, is when I actually started watching JP's show, and I was in the chat. And I just engaged in the chat and would DM him, and then the same with Heather. And it just, I never in my wildest dreams expected anything like where I'm at right now with you guys. I was in the chats, and it was, you didn't know who I was.
We thought you were a man at first.
Different.
Well, like
Sir Cardinal and Bob had pointed it out.
Well, like, oh man, I had it. Actually, isn't my 1 year coming up like here really, really soon?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, because you said you weren't, you had come on just recently when I started appearing in the chats and that.
Wasn't it right before WrestleMania?
Yep.
Yeah, it was like a month before.
Wasn't it Fastlane?
I believe so.
What did he say?
Fastlane.
It might have been. They didn't do Fastlane last year, though.
Or whatever pay-per-view it was before.
I think it was Elimination Chamber.
Wait, yeah, they did do a Fastlane last year.
So it might have been Fastlane, yeah.
I'll go back and look and I'll let you know.
Boy, ain't that a scary thought?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of which, with Fastlane coming up this Sunday, little Mr. Birthday Boy Bobbitt there is putting on Fast Bobs for us tomorrow on This Week in Wrestling.
After this week.
My show, you shut up.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
Right.
actually, before you get into that, I actually do need to go. I've got family waiting on me to jump on Discord.
No problem. We'll see you later, Johnny.
Have a good night, John.
You guys
Night,
have a
John.
good night.
Night, Johnny.
So, with that being said, Bobbitt, how many matches do you have on the card for Fast Bobs tomorrow?
2.
About 4, 5.
Okay. Do you want to reveal any of them, or do you want to wait until tomorrow?
Wait till tomorrow, because I'm still in work in progress on a couple of them.
Okay. But definitely, folks, tune in tomorrow on Bobbitt's channel for This Week in Wrestling, and then shortly followed after by Fast Bobs. So, get that little plug in there for you, Bobbitt.
Thanks, Heather.
No problem. But, and again, it's with the whole thing with wrestling fans and wrestling podcasters and fucking wrestling on social media in general, it's becoming a shit show. You have these wrestlers who are out there creating these sort of kayfabe, non-kayfabe arguments. I mean, it's a mess. It's really, really, really messy.
Right, and as we were talking earlier, I mean, you've got the show itself, you've got the promos, you've got the pay-per-views, and now you've got the aspect with social media with the YouTube channels and the Twitters and all that just culminating, which we didn't have back in the day. We had all the shows leading up to the pay-per-views, and you did your talking in the ring or you did your talking before the pay-per-views, where
Backstage.
now you've got social media involved and you got the fans involved, and just there's all different aspects now that are coming into play, and there are many different opinions out there, and that's what's causing a lot of the rifts and everything with the fans and the older fans and the newer fans and the social media aspect and the wrestlers and the talent and Vince McMahon. And it's just, I mean, to manage it all, it's a company, it's a business. And what's not to say that the same thing doesn't happen with AEW when they get up and running, that they're going to start getting the negative feedback or the fans complaining about this or complaining about this talent or complaining about this storyline. We don't know till that even gets up and running how that's even going to come into play. I mean, you're starting to hear some stuff with it now, but it's just they haven't even got off the ground yet.
Exactly. And honestly, back in the day, and I'm talking like 20 years ago with the 90s, the most social media networking that they did was after the matches, they had the AOL chat rooms. Who remembers those?
I do.
I mean, that's the most they had when it comes to social media. So with that, they had to stay in character. Now, we have these people that 1 minute they're in character destroying somebody with an online promo. But then 5 minutes later, they're saying that they're having a great time hanging out with that same person.
Right.
Because they're being themselves and not the character. And she's like,
Or you
yes, we understand that for the most part, kayfabe is dead. However,
Johnny's first show was April 3rd, 2018.
there we go.
Mm.
So April 3rd will be his 1-year anniversary.
Well, you even got Total Divas.
Exactly.
They hate each other on TV, on the show, but then you all see them hanging out on Total Divas in the swimming pool, drinking wine, having lunch, getting together.
Exactly. Especially that whole thing that went down between Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss. Can you come take her?
Yep, just give me a minute. I want to check something else too.
You have all of that going down with them, and then you have fucking Nia Jax trying to be this heel and all of that on social media, and then 5 minutes later, she's sitting there like being the most. Somebody tweeted out to her about their sick child, and she said, "Oh, that poor dear." So. It's like, is she a heel or is she a face? Here. Just in case she wants. So, and as Wise Society said here in the chat, next year we are going to be having Ronda Rousey on that show. And it's just going to be one of those things of they're going to destroy her. Just like they destroyed quite a few other people on that show. That was a good burp there. How you doing, TSS? I agree with you there. Their social media page should be the one place for them to reach out to fans as themselves, not the character.
Exactly.
The social media pages should be kept apart from the fucking shows. I mean, unless they want to sit there and advertise something for Raw or SmackDown or fucking a pay-per-view or Total Divas or Total Bellas, fine. But for the most part, their social media pages should be kept to their private social page.
Right.
So.
And their in-ring character is not the person that they are outside of the television show. It's like any show on television. It's like any soap opera character. The person that they're portraying, whether they're heel or face, does not mean it's the same character when they're out in public or with the family on vacation or trying to spend quality time out and about, for some downtime. I mean, that's another thing a lot of people, I guess, need to realize, too.
Exactly. They need to realize they're a human being away from this fucking character that you see on TV. And honestly, with them having their social media pages basically under 24/7 surveillance, and apparently JP is watching a video on Ronda Rousey that you're going to be able to hear on the show. Yeah. But what it comes down to is, yes, kayfabe is dead, TSS. However, they should not be sitting there and contradicting themselves with their social media pages by sitting there and saying that, oh, this person's a bitch and I'm going to destroy her, I'm going to beat her the fuck up. But then 5 minutes later sit there and say, oh, we just had a drink together. It's so much fun. Like, oh my God.
Right, or they're posting pictures where they're at lunch together.
Exactly. It's just like, but you're supposed to be fighting each other. I mean, come on.
I mean, that was one of the things when I was in high school. I did an actual term paper on professional wrestling because they did the TV taping in Painters Mill, Maryland.
Right.
And I actually got to speak with Lord Alfred Hayes as my person that I interviewed for the term paper. And we did a telephone conversation. And of course, the main question that they get thrown at a lot is this fake? Is wrestling real? And he basically, I mean, the answer that he gave is pretty much like what we have just said. They are individual people that are playing characters in a predetermined outcome.
Yes. Now, with that being said, folks, wrestling has not always been fake.
That is true.
You got to remember, wrestling started back in the 1930s.
Actually, started way before that.
The wrestling we're used to seeing today. So, it really got its takeoff in the 30s. So, back then, the wrestling was real. Because you had the Greco-Roman style wrestlers in a ring fighting against other Greco-style Roman wrestlers. So, with that, the matches were not predetermined for a finish. It wasn't up until, I think, the 70s that things had to start being predetermined.
You have to go back and watch the history of the world. It'll tell you then.
It was somewhere around that time that things had to start being predetermined. Otherwise, they were going to have to start getting licenses like boxers in order to fight and not have a predetermination finish.
In order for them to do some of the spots they do, they have to get a gaming license or a sporting license.
Right.
Yeah, and then even with it being on television, because I remember in the 70s, just watching with my dad, it would come on like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday after he got off from work, and we would sit there for an hour. And when they would have the one that I remember is the Piper's Pit,
Yes.
when Jimmy Snuka got hit with the coconut and was bloody, they had the big X over the television. You could still see, and it was like real grainy. But they put up the big X on the television, or in some cases they had the like little blob that covered the face, and it kind of went off air quickly and stuff like that. And even some of the matches, like Don Morocco and Jimmy Snuka, you had Chief Jay Strongbow. Certain ones always bled very easily, and
Abdullah.
it was always those types of things that you kind of knew, okay, we're going for the ratings, but we can't show it.
Right. And again, without there being a predetermination to the finish, they would have had to have had licenses for every single one. And Wendy just slobbered JP's cheek. But every single wrestler that they have under their employment, they would have to get licensed, and therefore, being it that it's their company, would eventually they would have to pay for them to be licensed for their company. So with them going over to that predetermined match, it came down to, okay, you just need a contract now. You don't need the license to fight.
They still have to get the license.
Not always.
Yes, they do. If there's a lot of the places that they go, in order for them to do,
it's not a sporting and gamers license. It's an entertainer's license they need, which is cheaper.
Yeah, but still. Go ahead.
It's with that being the case, it's entertainer's license, so it's cheaper and easier to get, rather than the sporting and gaming license, which is more expensive, and there's a lot of testing to go along with it, I believe, as well, to be sure that they're still capable of doing the sporting and gaming events. I think. Don't quote me on it. But with that being said, it also comes down to Charlotte put out a tweet.
Oh yeah, please do.
Can someone please remind Captain Badass here that her last 2 fights were before coming to WWE ended with her unconscious and sobbing in the cage? Well, there's one problem with your little grammar there, Charlotte, honey. How could she be sobbing if she's unconscious?
Look,
Just saying.
Look, Charlotte and Becky need to shut their mouth because Ronda's not fucking playing. I really don't think she is. She wants to fucking hurt somebody. Bad. And it's going to be one of them too, and I'm going to do nothing but fucking laugh. If anybody really thinks that this is a joke right now because Misha Tate put out, Ronda don't give a fuck. She don't care. That's why they put Charlotte in this match to protect Becky. Because if it was one-on-one, Ronda Rousey would probably break Becky's legs and arms.
And her face again.
And her face again. That match, it's not a shoot. It's not a work anymore. It's a fucking shoot, people. So both of them better keep their fucking mouth shut. And watch what they say, because she's not fucking playing.
No. And honestly, Charlotte just got her face looking quite pretty. It ain't gonna be that pretty after fucking WrestleMania if she keep up. Which also, people, Becky Lynch fans out there, you gotta look at it this way. Becky Lynch is another Sasha Banks. Every time she gets a big push, what happens? She gets injured.
And it ends up hurt.
Every time she gets a push. Every time. And that's why Sasha Banks is a 4-time women's champion and had to give it up to Charlotte every fucking time. Because every pay-per-view, she would have a fucking phenomenal fight with Charlotte and then end up hurt. So, this is why they have a problem with pushing certain people. They're injury prone. Becky Lynch is injury prone. Yes, one of those injuries was an accident. It's wrestling. People, it's wrestling. Excuse me. There's going to be accidents. There's going to be injuries. Shit. Go run into the backyard with some of your best friends and start doing some of these fucking moves that they do in the ring. See how well you can stand it. Just saying, folks. I mean, yes, I was a huge Becky Lynch fan. But I did want her to be pushed to the title. And was fucking ecstatic that she won it the first time. And her being the first ever SmackDown Women's Champion. However, she actually did have some injuries during that time, TSS. It's just they weren't so bad that she had to stop wrestling. But since then, she's had injury after injury after injury. TSS, so.
Like I said, I don't think that this is at work anymore. They may have to pull Ronda from this shit. Because she don't care. Like she said, she does not need this fucking job. She don't.
Well, and the other thing to look at too is, okay, we go to Fastlane. They've got Becky in the match. All indications is Becky's going to win because it's going to end up being the triple threat. You still have 3 weeks before WrestleMania. So with 3 weeks to go, is the storyline just basically going to stop, or are they going to still progress with Becky coming into the ring or Charlotte coming into the ring or something else occurring with Ronda and take the chance that one of them gets hurt before WrestleMania?
Well, it's going to happen anyway because of the fact that Becky and Charlotte have a match at Fastlane. And we all saw Becky sitting there limping a hell of a lot worse than what she was at fucking Elimination Chamber. Or Monday Night Raw. So it's just like, are you really overselling the knee injury, or did your knee get worse?
Right, because it's like at times she's got the crutch, and then at times she puts the crutch down. It looks like she's putting weight on it, and then it looks like she's not putting weight on it because she's got it dangling somewhat. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell because her acting skills suck.
Yeah.
Opinion.
I mean, plain and simple, that's what it comes down to.
But it's just it's just so much because we've seen it over the last couple months where they're progressing along with a storyline, and then something happens to somebody in that match, and it screws up the plans that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that this story just went in the roundabout, crazy straw type way to get to where it is for this weekend. God forbid if something happens the way Charlotte and Becky are in this ring, and if Ronda comes out or something even happening during the match where Becky's injury gets worse or Charlotte gets hurt, which if Charlotte gets hurt, then everybody's going to get the one-on-one. But Ronda comes out and just starts wailing on Becky like she did this past week, because she wasn't pulling back on those punches if you watched in the corner. Mm-hmm. She was literally, I mean, I'm sure Becky has welts on her stomach and bruises.
Oh, absolutely. But you know what? Becky, when it comes down to it, yes, Becky has her own toughness, because when she was still over in Ireland wrestling there, she ended up with a fractured skull that she was told she was never going to be wrestling again. And she came back from that. So she does have her own level of toughness.
Not this level of
I'm
toughness.
just going to say, thank you for interrupting.
You're welcome.
That was one hell of a burp there, kid. Hi.
Yeah, you've got somebody with an MMA background and an MMA jiu-jitsu style that, like everyone has said, is not holding back and not pulling punches. And at this point, yeah, I mean, can walk at any time and not give two shits what happens come WrestleMania.
Exactly, and there's people out there sitting there saying, "Oh, she's there for the money." No, she's not.
She don't want the fucking money.
She doesn't need the money. This woman has been in 2 movies, one of which is a fucking huge franchise, The Fast and the Furious.
She's been more than 1, 2 movies.
The 2 movies that I know of. Actually, no, 3 movies then.
Well, I was going to say she was in that Expendables too,
Yes.
with all the
Expendable movies, and she was in The Fast and the Furious.
Fast and the Furious.
I don't know what the other one is.
Roadhouse 2.
Oh, that's right, she was in that. Okay, but again, she has her foot in the movie industry. She doesn't need WWE money, because movie industry money is 3 times the amount of fucking WWE money. Because of the fact that she gets royalty fees on top of what she gets paid to make the movie. So therefore, she doesn't fucking need the WWE for money. So.
No, I think the TSS, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to talk about this tomorrow on my show for sure. You say that Ronda worked herself into a work?
She worked herself into a shoot.
Actually, Becky and Charlotte worked it into a shoot. See, Ronda didn't work anything into a work. She worked it into a shoot. It is now a shoot. It is not a work anymore.
But again, Ronda Rousey, she don't need WWE for money. She's there at the WWE because that's been one of her biggest dreams as a child.
Do you know how I see WrestleMania 35 ending?
I'll finish my point later.
Oh, go ahead. But I'm gonna tell you how I see it ending. Go ahead.
She said all she ever wanted to do was to get into the WWE and go to WrestleMania. She did that her first fucking week. Her first fucking month with the WWE. She made it to WrestleMania. So she's already done that. She doesn't need WWE for any fucking thing else.
The day she signed,
she signed before. She signed at Money in the Bank.
Yeah, but
no, Royal Rumble.
The day that she showed up at WrestleMania, She was gonna be in next year's WrestleMania.
She was in that year's WrestleMania.
She didn't. Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
The Royal Rumble. You're right. The Royal Rumble. I thought you were talking about this year.
No.
Right, because she started all that when she was in the crowd and The Rock called her out.
Yes, because he knew it was her dream. Because
Right.
they talk. Because, again, they were in a movie together. Fast and Furious.
And she's also got the video games and that going with her for her now too.
Exactly.
Yep. So
And
I'm
if they
sure,
make another Mortal Kombat, she's a dead shoo-in for Sonya Blade.
and I'm sure down
Yep.
the line she's going to have some kind of clothing line or training gear line.
I would
or
say she's
something.
going to have the athletic clothing, yes.
Yeah.
But she does not need the WWE for money, people. Get that thought out of your fucking head. She is making money constantly, hand over fist, with the Fast and the Furious franchise, the Expendables franchise, and fucking the royalties for Roadhouse 2, whenever that gets played somewhere. She gets a royalty fee for it. So when she sits there and says she don't need the WWE, she doesn't need the WWE.
You done?
Yep.
Okay. Now, you wanna know how I literally think that WrestleMania is gonna end? Everybody's gonna hate what I'm about to fucking say, but it's not gonna end with Becky Lynch holding the title.
No, Ronda's gonna still be holding it.
I'm gonna tell you why, Ronda. But here's what's gonna happen: if this is a shoot, which it's looking more and more and more and more like a shoot, Ronda Rousey's gonna beat the fuck out of both of Becky and Charlotte. Fucking grab the title, throw it in the middle of the fucking ring, and walk the fuck out. I see it happening.
Well, then that would be a worthy main event.
Yep.
Because right now, with the way the build is and all the shit it took to get to this point,
Exactly. I
we
mean,
just hope
frankly,
it happens.
frankly, they fucked up the storyline when they sat there and pulled Charlotte into it. They did fuck up there, but it was predictable, and of course, it happened. So we got to deal with it. And as we all know, we are more than likely getting a triple threat at WrestleMania.
We're kidding. There is no more likely.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, it's just a given at this point that
Exactly.
that Becky's walking out of there in some way, shape, or form. I mean, it's going to end up with the triple threat.
Exactly.
Even if they decide for 3 weeks to throw another wrench into the plane, whatever wins, but I can't foresee that.
And on top of that, it's going to be Charlotte Flair taking the fall.
Like I said, I don't see Becky Lynch walking out with the title.
No?
I don't think it's gonna be a no contest.
What's the matter, you? Hmm? What?
It's rocking chair time.
What?
Kid.
What? Are you still hungry? Hi, Aru. Yeah, that's what you gotta look forward to. But yeah, when it comes right down to it, a lot of the problem is social media dictating how a show is going to be. And at the end of the day, as JP says constantly, if you go into the show expecting shit, all you're gonna see is shit. If we're getting storylines here that are actually progressing careers
They're intriguing.
and intriguing as well, and we have fans who are sitting there, they cheered the product when it was shit, are now booing the product that now that it's starting to get interesting. Again, fickle!
Oh, why you gotta yell at people?
Because they deserve it.
You need to quit drinking.
Haven't had a drink yet tonight. But again, this is that I hope the baby is like you, Aru. I really do. Otherwise, what you just witnessed with Wendy there, that's a good example of what you're gonna get when she's hungry. I mean, I'm lucky that with Wendy, when she cries and wants to eat, she has a certain cry that comes out, hungry or huggy. So it's like, yeah, you're hungry, I know. So I have a feeling her first word's actually going to be hungry. Despite the fact of how many times the word fuck is thrown around in this house. So, anything else you guys want to rant about when it comes to the wrestling and wrestling fans?
Yeah, I think we covered it. Covered it on Monday, covered it on Tuesday.
Got it here again today.
Yep, Thursday. Be doing it again tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow's going to be different. Tomorrow we're actually going to be talking about some news topics. Which
Well,
we're
the
talking
news
about
topic,
Becky
yeah.
and Charlotte Ronda again.
it's
Who's
still
up
a
and say
news
it's gonna
topic,
come
so...
up? And we don't know what's going to happen overnight.
No, we don't. And honestly, Why Society said in the chat that Vince could wake up on Sunday morning and change his mind about certain things, and we could not get Becky at all. Why Society? It could be 4 hours before the show, and he could sit there and decide, okay, yeah, instead it's going to be Kofi versus Kevin Owens for main event instead of the women's match.
Yep, or they could be in the ring and he whispers it into the ref's ear.
Yeah, we need a change. Somebody else is winning that match. So, people sit there and say that Vince has issues in all of this, but it's not just him. There are things that go on behind the scenes that make him change his mind.
See, we don't take that into account. Nobody does, because we don't know what happens behind that fucking curtain.
Exactly. We don't know what goes on in gorilla position. We can sit there and watch a fight, not realizing that one of these people is actually hurt. They're actually wrestling hurt, or they got hurt in the middle of the match. So therefore, right in the middle of the match, the outcome has to be changed because of an injury.
Or he's gauging the crowd, seeing how the
Exactly.
crowd is.
Exactly.
I.e. Drew McIntyre, Andrade Cien Almas.
But, what it comes, basically, it's not just Vince. Vince also has to think of his shareholders and the board of directors.
Yep.
Because if they don't agree with it, because they think that whatever's going to be going on out there in the ring is going to injure their reputation,
Or their profit.
they can sit there and say, you need to change that up, or we're walking.
Right, or even with their sponsors. If you don't do this, sponsors could start walking.
Fucking Snickers!
Yeah, look
with the whole fucking Mae
Yeah.
Young bullshit. Not Mae
Exactly.
Young, Fabulous Moolah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love you too, Aru. Don't get caught. So it's Snickers sat there and told them that they had to pull that match and change the name of that match. Okay, Snickers, listen to this one. Mae Young was an alcoholic and a gambler.
Yep.
Mae fucking Young. Miss Elizabeth was a pill popper.
Yep.
Yep.
Sensational Sherry, cocaine addict.
Yep.
Mhm.
So, I like that attitude, Aru. I had the same attitude at my job. Go ahead, catch me on the phone. Who else here?
Hey,
Let's see. Oh, Macho Man Randy Savage.
he wasn't a drug addict.
He was an alcoholic.
They might have drank, but well, they all drank.
And Shrek, what was it he died of? Crashing into a tree?
Yeah, but he had a heart attack.
Yeah, his heart gave out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not because he was a steroid user either.
Mr.
No.
Perfect. Cocaine addict.
Yep.
Andre the Giant.
Alcoholic.
Yeah.
However, he was an alcoholic because of his pain, because of his medical condition.
Right.
But
Ultimate Warrior.
nonetheless.
Yes. All of these people in the Hall of Fame. All of these people highly regarded because of their wrestling attributes.
Yeah.
Hall of Fame is
Look at Jimmy Snuka. Up into his end.
Yeah.
I mean, had that hanging over his head about the,
The
The
alleged murder of his girlfriend.
yep.
All
Every-
Hall of Famers, all people held in high regard. Sponsors have no fucking problem with them.
Yep.
But when it comes to alleged stories of the fabulous Moolah pimping out girls and drugging them, oh, we can't have that person looked up to. Wrestling promoters themselves have done the same fucking thing. Hell, there have been times that wrestling promoters or male wrestlers themselves have either assaulted or attempted assault on the women wrestlers or the valets.
Well, even Vince McMahon himself has been put in that position.
Exactly.
And even with the steroid accusations with Hulk Hogan and all that was, I mean, that was the worst thing for back in those days for all that to come out.
Exactly. Here's another huge name that we all fucking know was a major drug addict. Shawn fucking Michaels.
He's a fucking notorious pill popper. X-Pac,
Party Boys.
Scott Hall,
Um,
Hardy Boys.
That's what Ronnie just said.
No, I was agreeing with her.
Yep.
I think Christian was.
No.
As well.
No, Edge was, I believe. Not
No,
Christian.
Edge wasn't a pill popper. I mean, look, we can sit here and talk. Personally, and I've said it before, I think the Hall of Fame is a joke. It's kayfabe. It's like the PWI 500 fucking best wrestlers and that list they come out with. Can anybody honestly sit here and tell me, I don't think Kenny Omega is the best wrestler in the world? Is he top 5? Yes.
Absolutely.
But he's not the best wrestler in the world. My top 2 are Kazuchika Okada and AJ Styles. Period. Bottom line. You can't find 2 better wrestlers in the world today than them 2. You can't. You can't. Yeah, Kenny Omega's up there, but I don't consider him the best. His promo ability is, it's okay. It's not great. His promo that he does at the end of every show, not a fan of it. But can he wrestle? Yes, I will give him that. He can wrestle, but he's not the best wrestler in the world. Kazuchika Okada and AJ Styles are the 2 best wrestlers in the world today. That's all I have to say.
Alpha, that will be a talking point on Wrestling Memories eventually.
What's that?
The rivalry between Matt Hardy and Edge because of Lita.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it, but we'll talk
It
about
will be talked about because it is. We are going through a series of rivalries. We are going to be redoing the Lita Trish Stratus rivalry first, and then we will move on. So.
Yes.
Exactly, TSS. It's yes, Okada's promo skills are but you know what?
Okada's is fucking Japanese.
Exactly. The Japanese wrestlers are more known for telling the story within the ring rather than on the mic.
And to me, to be honest with you, to me, promo ability should not be keyed into the PWI top 500. It's wrestling. It's not It's not PI, Pro Wrestling Promo Illustrated top 500. It's wrestling. That's all I have to say.
He says that, but you know what?
Well,
Yeah, let me say something about that.
What?
Well, TSS with AJ Styles, he was still learning.
What about AJ Styles?
That he got better with his promo skills. Before his
AJ
TNA
Styles
days.
is always
Before his TNA days.
TNA is where he took off. AJ Styles' promo skills have always been good. But again, I go back to this. I don't give a fuck about their promo ability. The PWI 500 should be all about wrestling, not their promo skills.
This coming from a guy who sits there and says that in order for them to be world champion, they need to be able to talk on the mic, fight in the ring.
You're missing my point. Now you're throwing shit out there.
Oh, really? Because we can go back to any one of your shows.
Yes,
where you
I
make
have
that list.
said that, but this is pro wrestling top 500. They're talking about ability inside the fucking ring, not their promo ability. To be a world champion today, you should be able to fucking cut a promo. And by God, if you have not listened to Kazuchika Okada cut a promo, when he talks, them fans fucking pop like motherfucker. So whatever he's saying is working.
Anyway. We've sat here and talked enough about this for one night, I think. Been 2 hours, the longest show I've been able to have in about a year. So we're good here.
It's not my fault.
So yeah, with that being said, folks, check us out on Bobby's channel tomorrow for This Week in Wrestling and then Fast Bob's. JP gets kicked in the gut by Wendy. Now, everybody, you have a great night, and we will see you tomorrow.